The new BMW R1300 GS was officially released in 2024. The iconic GS has endured a 40-year legacy. Over time it's been developed and improved as technology and understanding of how a tour adventure bike should look and behave. In doing so, BMW have made the GS the benchmark against its competitors. So here's some of my initial impressions, good and bad, on the new 1300. So here we go then, I've got the R1300 triple black version. And straight away, just feel a little bit lighter. Let's fire her up. It certainly is different to look at from the front. A bit decisive in the reactions from a lot of people, and its looks. There we go, the clunky. It definitely is a GS because it's got a clunky gear change. Did you feel it jump forward then? It's done 2,500 miles already, this new GS. First few 100 metres on the GS. It sounds very tinny, sounds a bit strange, a bit whiny. It's got the standard exhaust on it, I believe. My first impressions are a slimmed down version, and it packs more with all the technicality and how all the improvements they've made with it. They've rejigged the engine frame. It's not tubular anymore, it's hardened steel, I think it is. It's flattened steel. It's just so perfect to just move at slow speeds. I always likened it to a tightrope walker who's walking across that narrow line on a tightrope with a big bar across his waist, and is perfectly poised and balanced. Well, the GS is like that. Yeah, so just manoeuvring in and around the city, really nice, dead easy to move about. The new GS 1300 with a lot of the tech that I'd want on it, similar to my current GS, it's going to be up in the region of 20,000. The classic touring position. Mirrors are the same. Obviously got this little triangle here, which is the blind spot detector, which is fantastic. Yeah, it just sounded a little bit strange. Like, I prefer the old sound to the old GS. Yeah, that's strange, that is. The seat, I would say at the minute, it doesn't feel as comfortable. I've only been on the bike 10 minutes and I can feel it's almost like a horizontal flat sponge, whereas my old GS, it's just like a settee. It's really comfortable and thick. Okay, I've only been on it 10 minutes. I'd have to see what it's like over a long distance. The design of the front bit here, now the windscreen is probably going to be as good as the old one. I guess you can get these if you're quite tall, 6 foot. You can get these aftermarket products to bolt on top of the windscreen. But when I've seen the bike on the videos, this bit down here, the perspex at the bottom, now no doubt it does a fantastic job with the wind deflection and keeping the wind off the rider. But I just wonder whether that should have been black or, you know, blended in with the look of the bike, because I'm not too sure about this being clear. Just looks a bit strange. Yeah, you can see the road down here. You're not too bothered about the road down there. You look further ahead at the road and potholes, but yeah, not too sure about that bit. Just pulling off there, it did seem very sort of torquey, like it's got more pull on it. We know it's got more torque, it's got more brake horsepower, this new GS, and it does feel very, I mean, I couldn't do this on my old GS. How it's just, I can just throw that left to right like that. It'd be going a lot slower because it's a lot heavier, but this is just really nimble. It feels almost like a 900. Now the telelever suspension has been revised as well, so, and I'm deliberately going over these speed bumps just to check the suspension out. And they are quite high speed bumps, you can see by the white triangles, and I'll tell you what, it's just so smooth going over these bumps. I'm going 25 miles an hour and you can hardly feel, well, obviously you can feel you're going over the bump, but that suspension is fantastic. Really good suspension. Takes all the, another one here that will just go over that one. Yeah, very, very nice. I would say that's a big improvement on the old GS for sure. But I'll tell you what, with the quick shifter on my old GS, going down, I hardly ever use the going down quick shifter because it's so clunky, and sometimes I can't even get it into gear going down the gears. I never use it going up from 2nd to 6th. But with this new 1300, okay, this has got just over 2,000 miles, and I guess it's still bedding in. It is a lot smoother, still a little bit the GS clunkiness, but it's not as clunky as the old GS, I would say. So we're in 6th gear now, so nothing behind me. I'm not going to use the clutch. 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm not going to go to first because that'd be cruel to the engine. But that was a lot easier going down. A bit clunky, but I could not do that with my old GS. So that's a big improvement on the quick shifter. Not quite as smooth as the Ducati Multistrada. That's just silky smooth. That's awesome. But yeah, I would say it's an improvement on the old GS. What I will say about the price of the new 1300 is I think the base price is just a snip under £16,000 in the UK. You've got all these different packages that you can bolt on that can literally boost it up to around about £23,000. So you need to choose which bits that you want. Just scroll through to the windscreen, and I've got the little up down button here once the windscreen button's selected. So if I select up, you can see the windscreen going up there. That's quite Gucci, I like that. Very nice. Now I believe there is like a sport sort of mode on the, oh there we go. So if I scroll to the right and down, then the TFT will change its iconics. There we go, we've got a different screen. It's the sport screen now. That's quite nice, isn't it? And it also shows you your lean angle and then your breakage as well, I believe. So I think what I do, I'll put a little bit of breakage on. And did you see the yellow bar go up there showing you how much breakage there was? So that's quite good. The cruise control is in the same position, exactly the same as the old GS. So just come onto some country lanes now, some back streets off the main road, and just see what she's like around the bends. And I am taking my time because you can see the white frost at the side of the road, so there may be some icy patches, so I'm not giving it too many beans around these corners. So far it does feel really stable, and the suspension's fantastic. Really like it. And this is quite a bumpy lane, country lane, and the suspension is just mopping it up. So your side stand has got a little bit of a nodule there to put your little toe to push it out and get it down. But I did notice it was a lot easier to put on its centre stand because it's a bit lighter. And here you see the connectors for the luggage, and you see that's got a little bit of a tilt. I wonder if that's when it goes around the bends, then the luggage will tilt to compensate for the weight in the luggage. And these little rubber stoppers here, I think they are the connectors for the luggage. This is a connector there and one on the side there. Without having the central brake light unit there, obviously we've got I think that's the radar section there at the back, picking up the blind spot vehicles coming up along the side. LED all round lighting front and back, and then we've got that new distinctive cross shape as opposed to the hexagonal one on the old GS. I guess that we'll get used to that as time goes on. And there's some question marks as to whether the indicators on the handlebars, obviously we're going to drop the GS occasionally at slow speeds, moving it around. I have a couple of times, so if that cracks the indicator, then that might be costly. But yeah, quite distinctive. You know it's a GS, don't you, with that new cross. And I don't think they could have done anything with this matte black central unit there in terms of decoration, because it serves the purpose with the radar detection. So I guess there's not much else they could have done, but I think the beak is a bit stubbier compared to the old GS, but it's still that distinctive beak at the front. 19-inch front wheel, 17-inch back wheel, single swim arm. I do like the triple black. So the passenger, you can see here, same as the old GS, can operate the seat heating. It's in the off position, that's low and high or off. The seat does look chunkier at the back, doesn't it, for the passenger? And it remains to be seen as to how comfortable that's going to be on long distance touring until somebody's done it and can report back as to how comfortable it is. That button there is the like a fast track button, so I believe you can put which elements of the bike that you want to put on the fast track button, so it brings it up straight away. Yeah, no, I'm messing around with the seat heat and trying to get that, and I've had a couple of vehicles pull out, so I think I'm just going to leave it as it is. Yeah, so my first impressions, what I would say is it is certainly different sitting and riding the bike than it is looking at the bike. When you first see the new GS, it was not as chunky or as imposing as the old GS.
Now you can buy the standard 1300 just for under a snip of £16,000. But all of the new tech and features such as the adaptive ride height, the radar pack, the gear assistant, electric windshield, seat heating, centre stand and packages, etc, all come at an additional cost, which can bump the cost up to around £23,000, which to me is just too much for a motorbike. I'd advise you to take a look at the configurator on the BMW website. That'll give you an idea of the extra cost of the extra components which you might want to add. The gear shifter. I find it still a bit clunky, but nowhere as bad as my 2021 GS 1250, so it has improved, but not as good as, for example, the Ducati Multistrada. No independent rear brake light. This is because, as you can see, the radar device is built into where you'd imagine the brake light to be. Now the brake light has actually been incorporated into the indicators. They will light red under braking. Now I just don't think, as the indicator unit is smaller, it just might be confusing for the road users, so I'd really like a proper independent brake light. Now the independent heated grips button has moved to that fast track button I mentioned earlier. Now it may be once you are familiar with using the fast track button it might not be an issue, but I did find an independent button for the heated grips simple to operate on my 1250. Now I've dropped my GS a couple of times, mainly from just pushing it around the garage. The first thing that hits the deck is the engine bars and the handlebar ends. Putting the indicator flashes actually in the handlebar ends might be an extra cost if the unfortunate drop occurs. This is just a minor niggle. I love all the names for the GS's except for the Taramata Salata or the Taramasala. I can't say it. Surely they could have come up with a better name for that variant. So here we go then, the looks of the new 1300. Now reading social media, it's clear the initial response to the looks of the bike has had some mixed reviews. My first real life impression was that it lacked some of its predecessor's road presence. I thought perhaps they could have sculpted some extra bodywork to give it some better looks perhaps. But BMW stated the goal during development was maximal reduction instead of ever increasing size. The result? Inimitable handling. Like a clean sheet, every area has been improved on 1300. A new developed chassis, the new monocoque rear frame, the new Evo telelever and Evo power lever, as well as the new DSA dynamic suspension adjustment. It's lighter by 12 kilograms, faster by 9 brake horsepower, with a completely redesigned engine providing improved performance and efficiency. So I'd say don't judge the R1300 GS by its cover, take it for a test ride and just see how good it really is.